And good afternoon. John Michaels here with my friend Stephen Claggett at Watchtower, and this is another episode of the Caught on Camera Multifamily Podcast powered by Watchtower Security. Thank you for joining us, Stephen. How are you doing, my man?
I am doing great. How are you, John?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. Definitely awesome. I think this time of the year, it's football season. Guys like you growing out the strong beards to kind of get ready for the winter. I'm jealous of that. I can't get past this level too. But definitely excited to do another podcast and just kind of give a glimpse to our audience that are Watchtower customers today, or even those customers that are thinking about hiring Watchtower for our video surveillance services, kind of a peek behind the curtains with our edited videos. What about you?
Yep, always excited. It's always a pleasure and fun to look back on some of these incidents that we've investigated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that the theme for today, if I'm understanding correctly from our awesome marketing team, is really touching on, some popular items. And one of those is catalytic converter thefts. I think we've all either had somebody that we know close that has been a victim of this, or maybe even ourselves. And so I think we're going to have some great video to share with our audience on that topic, as well as I believe there's going to be some stolen Kias as well that seem to be keeping your team in the forensic review world plenty busy, Stephen.
Yes, very busy. There's definitely no shortage of either of those. So,
absolutely, I guess. Well, with that said, let's jump into our first one.
All right.
All right, Stephen, this one looks like this was earlier in the year in January, and it's going to be another catalytic converter theft. What are we about to see here?
Well, we've got, like you said, it's in January, about 6 o'clock in the morning, and pretty typical, more or less an empty parking lot, not a whole lot of activity, but it's a wonderful SUV just parks right next to what is soon to be the victim's car here.
Yeah, I think a couple of things to point out, which, we talk about in sales is, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, if we do a video surveillance, we're going to need great lighting, at night. And so I think this is a great example of a well-lit community in the parking lot areas, just so that we can be as accurate as possible in learning, who, what, when, and where when these catalytic converter thefts are reported. And I think, is that a common thing, Stephen, that we're seeing in the forensic review team when they want to steal a catalytic converter, they just park right next to the car and just hope nobody's really going to look, that they're maybe on the ground in between both vehicles. It seems like it's a common theme from my angle as far as looking at these reviews.
Yeah, pretty much. And they can do it so quickly that, it doesn't really matter if they're right next to, or at least they don't think it really matters if they're right there, just because some of these experienced guys, they can do it in honestly less than a minute, just quickly jump in, cut it out, throw it back in their car, and then they're gone, all within the span of just a few minutes. So.
Absolutely. Just another great job, from our forensic review team. I mean, obviously we see here, ironically, the vehicle of the suspects has a 30-day tag on it. So we'll go ahead and just maybe assume that's not a valid license plate. But what I love about what our review team is able to do is really put this enhanced photos and video together, because we know, working with law enforcement a lot, that just even those visuals of the suspects and the vehicle that they arrived in, even though maybe it wasn't a valid license plate, they're going to be able to make an apprehension because they're known, and that's not the last car that they're going to go ahead and steal a catalytic converter. So another great job from our forensic review team. All right, Stephen, it looks like we got another well-lit parking lot here for another catalytic converter theft.
Yes, definitely plenty of coverage in this particular property. Not really any part of it that's out of camera view, which definitely helps our team quite a bit when we're tracking some of these down.
Right. I get this question a lot in sales as we're watching them kind of go through the car here. John, like, we put cameras out, like, shouldn't this prevent all this stuff from happening? And, what we talk through is this is going to help minimize activity like this. But what we've learned is, bad things are going to happen from bad people. What's great about Watchtower having our surveillance system in place is this will probably be the last time that these criminals come onto the property, because there's a good chance they got apprehended based on this evidence that our client received, and they're able to provide law enforcement of this catalytic converter theft.
Yeah, ideally it will deter people from committing crimes if they know that the cameras are in the area. But like you said, bad things still happen, and having the camera footage to catch them and provide to law enforcement, hopefully they can catch up with them before they're able to strike again.
Absolutely. My favorite part of watching is the lookout guys. I'm like, they're trying to be inconspicuous, but like they look suspicious when they're doing it. And it's almost like, come on, guys, you're almost putting a target on you. And just to give some feedback, that was probably one of the slower ones that we've seen as far as the time that it took for them to steal that catalytic converter. So not to sound silly, but you could tell kind of the experienced people versus the inexperienced.
Right, right.
And I'm
Still
not speaking from experience to clarify.
still relatively quick when you think about what it takes to cut these things out, but not the most experienced by any means.
All right, Stephen, it looks like we're looking at another example of a catalytic converter theft, and that's one of those 180 cameras to start it out, isn't that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cool shot. I love looking at that in the design process of how we do video surveillance on where we can kind of minimize the use of two cameras into one. So let's see what these individuals are up to at, it looks like 4:21 in the morning.
Yeah, you notice a trend there with a lot of these where it happens in the early morning hours or middle of the night. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but they can do it so quickly that I have seen it happen in broad daylight. But typically it is, early morning, midnight hours when there's not a whole lot of people walking around.
Absolutely. And he's just enjoying, like, it's like Christmas for him, right? With all these vehicles parked on both sides of the street. He's just kind of going up and down, trying to figure out which one he wants to take.
Well, and they're typically looking for a certain model. There's kind of these trends that go along with it. I saw him, stop briefly next to that Honda Element. I know that those were, a pretty hot vehicle, and then he kind of goes up the row looking to see if there's any other ones that might be of interest for him, and then looks like now he's pulling right back to that Element that he was first looking at.
Yeah, and what the criminals, if I can say criminals in this case, because they just stole something in front of us. I feel like they always forget that there's license plate recognition technology at the entries and exits of all the Watchtower communities, because it's like there it is. There's the perfect evidence of a great license plate at the end to give to law enforcement. And what I'm finding in a lot of these markets that I'm covering in the Southeast markets is these LEOs, are able to run those tags very quickly to see what other crimes that they've been involved in. And those are the success stories I love hearing from our Watchtower clients, is when those people are held accountable. It leads to residents being more satisfied, with the community, because even though they were a victim of this theft, they were able to get a successful resolution through law enforcement. And I'm sure that helps with their insurance company too. So another great example from our forensic media team and what we're doing, for our customers at Watchtower.
Yeah, most definitely. The license plate cameras are a major asset, and in the chance that these criminals hit multiple vehicles over the course of one night or multiple days, if we catch that plate, we're going to provide all the evidence that we have, even if it does span across multiple properties and multiple days.
Absolutely. All right, Steve, we've got another catalytic converter theft. It looks like a silver sedan that's out on a hunt tonight for some stolen catalytic converters.
Yep, just cruising the streets looking for their next victim, and in this case, yet again, early morning hours, just before 6 a.m.
If we haven't learned anything, it's make sure that you live at a Watchtower community if your catalytic converter is going to be stolen in the middle of the night, because there's a good chance we're going to have the evidence that we need to provide to law enforcement. So looks like, are they going to do two vehicles here, or am I missing that?
Well, I guess I'm not sure as we're watching this.
Yeah, it looks like they got the Orkin truck, and then if I'm watching it at the same time you are, they go down the street and they want to look at another Toyota. It looks like a Prius potentially, and it looks like he got
Probably.
frustrated and just kicked it.
Yeah,
So
the Prius was one of those, as I mentioned earlier, there's certain types of vehicles that they're looking for. The Prius was a hot one. I know Mitsubishis were really popular for a minute there. What I noticed within here is you can even see the detail on that car. They have that giant dent in the
yep.
back bumper. So even, if law enforcement is cruising and they happen to see, oh, there's that silver sedan with that dent, that matches up with our suspect. It's just another lead for them to figure out who's responsible here.
Right. What's interesting is when they pull out at the very end, another great shot from our review team on that license plate recognition technology. It almost looks like he put something underneath the car, that they're looking at. So I don't want to assume on things, but man, you read up on like Apple AirTag stuff and just tracking cars, maybe that they want to maybe get at a different time. Just
Mm-hmm.
really kind of makes you think and just again another reminder, just to kind of be aware of your environments when you're parking your cars. Is there anything that really people can do to avoid having a catalytic converter, stolen? In our opinion, based on the what all the evidence that we see on
It's
a daily
it's
basis.
tough. It's tough. I mean, they certainly sell, cage protectors that make it more difficult, but those are also expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult crime to protect yourself against.
Well, I'm definitely not going to buy a cage for my 2011 Honda Pilot because I've had to replace two of those catalytic converters for like the last year and a half, and I haven't done it. I was just waiting for somebody to steal it after seeing all these examples, but nothing's happened yet to my Honda Pilot, Steven. So maybe I need to put a sign on it. Hey, Steven, this is interesting. We saw in a theme like it's during the middle of the night or before that 6 a.m. hour. This incident looks like it's what just before 6 p.m.
Yeah, yeah,
December, or
yeah.
excuse me, February.
Cold February day here, but yeah, like you said, it's not typical. It is just kind of in broad daylight, but they can do it so quickly that it almost is not suspicious for them to just be parking there briefly for a moment and in and out.
What I like about this one is it shows how, our review team speeds up footage, just to kind of show the incident and what happened. But I feel like they're not too good about reversing. I mean, that was like a 8-point reverse there. So, but we got to get the jack out of the car, which, kudos to them to, work smarter, not harder. This is the first one I've seen today with a jack being used. What's
Yeah,
interesting is that gentleman just walked by and he's like, I don't think anything of this. It's probably just he's got a flat tire, right? Nobody's thinking that, hey, maybe this is an opportunity where I can call the police because this isn't correct, especially with the
right.
flashers going off.
Yeah, to any bystander, it almost just looks like two guys working on a car, changing a
Yeah.
flat.
I mean, I would imagine if you get fired as a pit crew member in NASCAR, this could be your second best career because that was a pretty professional looking catalytic converter theft right there. So, but again, these criminals where they think they're smart using jacks to lift up cars and steal catalytic converters, they forget they're on Canon camera with Watchtower Security. Not only do we have those face shots that we just showed a little bit that we have to blur out a little bit on these public videos, but we also have the license plate at the end that Colorado police were able to go after those two individuals. So another great job again of relying on Watchtower at this apartment community to find out the who, what, when, and where regarding this catalytic converter theft.
Indeed.
Looks like we got another great catalytic converter theft example. Again, hyperspeed playing right now. Steven, it's our before 6 a.m. time, isn't it?
It sure is. But great lighting here. He's got a mask on, but we still get a pretty good look at his face.
Oh yeah. Well, he loves looking up for the cameras too, and he's like, I don't care if there's cameras there because he's probably used to going to apartment communities where the cameras aren't working. Where it's just, it's a camera, I'll take the risk. Unfortunately for him, the cameras were working here with Watchtower,
Yep.
and that's a fallen tree in the back of the.
Yeah, this is also a bit of a unique one in that he's on foot and just carrying a backpack with him. Normally we see where they pull up right next to it, but he's on a mission this evening, it looks like, or this morning rather. He's just crawling under
So
any
now
car he really can.
he's going back to the original one, right, and just doing the neighboring car. Does it look like I would go ahead and make a stretched assumption that he's done this a few times, Stephen.
I would think so. Not his first rodeo.
And I like to say that I get my hands dirty, but man, this guy's all over the pavement. Like, I don't know about you, but I would at least want some sort of padding. You know what I mean? Like maybe a chair pad that I would take with me. But this guy's like, I'm a tough man and just gonna get on the ground and steal stuff. My question is how comfortable is he going to be in jail? When he gets arrested, because I would imagine he's got a few of these that he'll get caught for, and probably a felony in most states. Would you think?
I would think so. I mean, I think the limit is traditionally, $500 or more, and catalytic converters are not cheap to replace by any means.
All right. And the best part, the video that I'm seeing right now is he even allows his hat to come off and kind of show his face. So not only are you getting the top of the bald head, you're getting right there in the face, which is a great compliment to Watchtower. I mean, for those of us that don't know that are listening in, I mean, we go about 10 feet off the ground, and for this very reason right here, we want to see the faces of people that are doing bad things versus the tops of bald heads. So we're giving law enforcement plenty of evidence that they need to make an apprehension on this individual. So it looks like I've seen at least 2 catalytic converters now that he's put in the book bag. Is that where you're at as well?
Yep.
And he's off. So again, I think where we can help our customers is just exactly this review is finding out the who, what, when, and where for both those residents that own those 2 vehicles that were victims of this crime. So another great job from our forensic review team, Stephen, knowing how much time they put into these forensic reviews that we provide our customers. All right, Stephen, this is another like weird one for us because it's in the middle of the day, right? Like we're looking at just before 1 p.m.
Right. It's like on a lunch break or something.
Right. So, if you can't afford to pay for Chick-fil-A, go steal a catalytic converter theft or catalytic converter, sell it, and then go get your Chick-fil-A. But what was interesting is this is probably the fastest one that I've seen, right? Like as far as the time that he took to get under the car and out of the car with a catalytic converter.
Right. It's extremely fast.
And I know we're playing this in hyperspeed for those of us watching that aren't used to us accelerating some of the footage. So he's not driving that fast in the parking lot. Stephen, what are we looking at here?
When we've got our wonderful license plate shot here, and literally the guy gets out and you see the catalytic converters in the trunk that he takes a picture, presumably to send it to whoever he plans to sell them to.
And again, I think this is an example of why there's so many multifamily communities out there that are like, man, I wish we could catch these guys, but then they find out their cameras aren't working. And that's what this guy's used to, right? He's used to being able to go at the very end of the property and maybe do what he just did, to take a photo and not think that there's a camera right on him. That got a great face shot. That license plate, and as you saw too, the signage is right there in front of him on the gate. But I think it's like anything else, like where we hear the car alarm going off in a parking lot in a public setting. I don't know about you, but I don't even look anymore, right? So I think it's like the same mentality that, hey, just because they have signs everywhere that there's cameras everywhere, it doesn't mean that they do. Well, we did here because our client trusted Watchtower to handle all things video surveillance. So happy that we're able to help put this guy, in jail where he belongs by really doing bad things here with stealing these catalytic converters.
Yep. A great return on the investment in the cameras.
All right, Steve, this next catalytic converter theft, it looks like we're inside of a parking garage. Is that correct?
We are inside the garage. Looks to be about 5:30 in the evening. So again, outside of the normal hours, which would seem, risky. A lot of people coming home from work around this time, but they seem pretty confident they're going to be able to knock this out pretty quickly.
And he picks this nice Toyota Tundra Platinum. And I think there's a couple of things to point out. One, with nearly more than 800 apartment communities that Watchtower serves today across the nation, including Puerto Rico, a lot of them are in mid-rise and high-rises that involve these parking garages. So we do that for those of us that are watching and managing these kind of similar assets. But then two, I didn't know, as a truck owner myself, fairly new truck owner, that these fancy Toyota trucks, the Platinum series, have 4 catalytic converters.
That was new to me also. I thought there was always just one per vehicle, but in this case, we got 4 of them. Makes it a prime target, you would think.
Absolutely. So it looks like I'm watching at the point where he took two real quick. He's not looking at the cameras, so I'm not sure if he knows that there are cameras. I do like the sense of urgency. I mean, he's keeping up a hustle pace, but it looks like he's going to go for round two. And again, it's just one of those situations where you said it earlier is evaluating the risk, right? You got another lookout guy standing above the car, looking around in circles, which again, if I could advise any criminal, like, don't do that because you're just putting a target on your head. But I'm not here to advise any criminals. And so, we got the second round here, the 4 total catalytic converters now getting back in the car. And I guess the risk is just worth it, that even though it's 5:43 in the evening, that I'm going to go ahead and try this out. And they did. And unfortunately, this resident of the apartment community that drives the Platinum Toyota, which is fancy. I mean, I might have to rethink being a GMC guy. Again, we're giving him closure, or her, when they find out that they've been a victim of this theft, because that property manager at this Watchtower site is able to give them and their insurance company and law enforcement the evidence that they need, that typically wouldn't happen in most multifamily communities. Only because sometimes, it's a 50-50 shot that there's cameras there. And then the other 50% of the time that cameras are installed, they might not be working. Plus the property manager, sometimes they just struggle with trying to access the DVR. Maybe the asset just traded new ownership. They don't have access to it. Again, those are all pain points that we solve at Watchtower as kind of a one-stop concierge shop for them when it comes to video surveillance.
Yep, I think we make it about as easy as it possibly can be.
Absolutely. And the final parts of this review is that exit with the license plate. I mean, that's what puts these criminals behind bars. So I love being behind a product and a service that does that for our customers in the multifamily space.
Same.
All right, Stephen, what we got with this catalytic converter theft incident?
Once again, it seems to be early morning, but still not middle of the night. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. This particular, offender came prepared. They've got their trunk open right when they pull in.
On Halloween, out of all days, to commit a theft. You know what I mean? At least put some decorations on the car or something. So we're seeing them come through, walking around. It looks like what are they doing next to the building there, Steven?
Looks like they're stopping over next to the dumpster here.
Again, what's just showing off, though, is how well we cover a property at Watchtower. We got cameras. Basically, our goal is always to have the minimum amount of cameras to give us the most amount of coverage. So even in front of that maintenance shop that probably has had some high traffic area, this individual decided to, hey, you know what? I'll take advantage of stealing this Dodge Ram's catalytic converter theft, not thinking there's a camera right above there. So we got him doing that. Looks like he's jumping out. What do you think the odds are that bike is stolen on the back of their car?
Pretty good chance, if somebody's just picking up catalytic converters, why not take a bike while you're at it?
Exactly. So another great job. Again, just showcasing how well we cover an entire community. So even if we weren't to get that truck that we did, because we had a great camera shot on the maintenance shop, there's a great opportunity that we would be able to capture those suspects or suspect that's responsible for catalytic converter theft because of how we have the entire community covered. So another great job showcased from our forensic review team, Stephen. Stephen, thank you for joining me today on the latest Caught on Camera Multifamily podcast. For those that are watching us, please share this link with your network, other property managers that maybe need to know about Watchtower. As you're benefiting from our video surveillance services, we can't thank you enough for doing that, engaging in our social media posts, and just really keeping Watchtower front of mind when talking to your network on who needs video surveillance help within the multifamily space. Thank you all and have a great day.